So moving ahead, we'll begin with the second session, which is around the programs in the urban livelihood space. Our first speaker for today is Mr. Pranav Kumar Chaudhary for this session, and he is the Director of Operations with Dr. Reddy's Foundation.
Hi Bhagyashree, am I audible?
Yes, Pranav.
Okay, so should I share my screen or you will manage?
No, we can manage like this. You can just tell me whenever you want me to switch to the next slide.
Sure, thank you Bhagyashree, and hello everyone. And you all have heard Professor Debilina, Varun, Anuj, Manoj, and they have covered very important points starting from the policy level and then the real issues of migrants, and then about certain solutions, and also about MSME and some more solutions. So what I will do, I will quickly give a brief introduction about Dr. Reddy's Foundation and also focus on the theme given. Over to Bhagyashree, right? Bhagyashree, can you? Yes. So foundation started in 1996 and we mainly focus on education, livelihoods, health and climate action initiatives. Presence in 20 states. Over to next slide. And we have close to 13 different programs, and all these programs are related to 7 sustainable development goals. But today I will be limiting my sharing to urban livelihood solutions. Over to Bhagyashree, next slide please. Yes, so these are the current urban livelihood solution the foundation has, and the target groups are 2 different targets. One is the youth and second is the person with disabilities. Now for youth we have different kind of programs, but if you look at the core focus of these programs are mainly 2. Either we focus on core employability skills or the technical skills. So all our programs under youth initiative or the person with disability initiatives, the main fulcrum has been these 2 important skills. When I say core employability skills, I mean different levels of English or computer or digital literacy, basic arithmetic, the interview readiness or the sector readiness, and also the soft skill. When I talk about technical skills, primarily we are focusing on healthcare programs because it is slightly technical in nature. If you talk about the allied and healthcare professionals training and modules for them, we have also worked on the advanced IT, especially for our person with disability target group. And all our programs are placement linked programs. So the solution when we design, we focus on that if this training can also help them to get some wage-based employment, only then those solutions are being scaled up. In last 23 years, we have trained more than 4 lakh such youth, and in last financial year the average salary is approaching between 12,000 to 13,000, and placement percentage is around 70%. Having said that, there are centers with 50-60% placement, there are centers with 80% placement, but this has been the average of the program. Please, next slide please. Yeah, I would like to spend some time here, especially due to the COVID challenge, that how these programs or the models got impacted. And because most of our programs are able to deliver quality outcomes, so what we do basically, we design certain solutions, we do some MVP, minimum viable product approach we use. If the results are there, we do some pilot, and if the pilot is successful, we only scale programs if the donors are there. So we share up, they agree on the outcomes, only then we scale it up. Otherwise, we kill the idea or wait for the if the outcomes are not there. And if the outcome is there and if the donors are not there, we focus more on finding donors to scale up the program. That has been the basic strategy for foundation to scale up the urban, or even for that matter rural solutions. But the COVID-19 threw a different kind of challenge. We were not ready for that, and the biggest challenge for our skilling program was that the centers, due to lockdown, the centers got completely shut. And then how to manage a program which is present in, say, 80 different locations spread across 18, 19 centers. So quickly we started using technologies like Zoom or maybe Microsoft Team meetings and WhatsApp, and quickly strengthen our LMS platform, which helped us to manage the classroom program. And it also helped us to come up with one digital solutions, which we have branded now with Grow, the name of Grow Digital. Basically, that is a program which is completely managed online. And the target group is slightly different from the same target group of 10, 12th pass classes students, but those who have a smartphone and the data connectivity, they can only participate in that program. That segmentation is important, because if you look at India, though we talk about the digital or technologies, the solutions, basically we are talking about 50% of India, because as per 2020 internet penetration, only 50% of India had access to internet. But having said that, time will come that most of us will use internet. But the other problem was that because all these programs are donor supported programs, or the team were not trained handling training online, and there is digital infrastructure required, not only for students but also for the trainers who will deliver it online. So basically 3 things helped us as an organization. One was the organization health. For last 4-5 years, we are not only measuring our projects, but we also measure the organization health. When I say organization health, this is basically the different systems in organization which help us to manage our program well, which help us to scale up our program well, which help us to find new donors. So that framework being there, it created a very sound health for the organization, which helped us to, or is helping us to survive. Second is this strategy. We also have program level strategy. I have also met PWD as a link. Anyone who is interested can go through it. So it basically, both these strategies talk about the 5-year plan under skilling for youth, or PWD, what we are going to do. And interestingly, the digital delivery was one such priority. So what happened? That COVID accelerated that process, and we were able to do that. Just last 1 minute. The key learnings have been that the core employability skills are important, these foundational skills. Why so? Because India's learning outcomes from government schools have been so poor. So the students who are coming out, they don't have the basic foundational skill. And as Professor Devalina already talked about, that only 5% of India's populations are properly skilled. Delivery models matter a lot, because we have to quickly look at our delivery model, how you are going to deliver that program. It is classroom based, blended, or digital. Incorporate that in your strategy, and after COVID it is very, very important. Focus on demand-led skilling, then just doing skilling and we don't know that where the employers are, and these keeps changing. COVID is just one example. Otherwise these things always keep changing. Our healthcare program is designed based on looking at the demand of allied healthcare professionals. And then anything what we do, if we focus on the right delivery or the quality delivery, it will always lead to the better job in that ecosystem, the kind of jobs which are available. Last slide, please. The last slide is about, you can skip this. These are few case studies. You can skip this, Bhagishree. Yeah. So scale up opportunities, that as I told you, that all our programs are scaled up either by government or the corporate CSR or the different foundations. So till date, in last 23 years, we work with close to 70 different partners. And anyone who want to scale up these solutions may contact us to know about this, and then we will let you know that how you can use this solution and join us as a funding partner. Or if you want to know something about how we are doing this, we'll be equally open to share those ideas. Over to Bhagishree.
Thank you, Pranav, for keeping it very brief and also touching upon all the challenges and learnings that you have from this project. I think that really helps the rest of the partners to look at different corrective actions for the changes COVID has introduced in the programs as well.
Thank you, Devin.
So
Thank you,
moving ahead, we will take the questions for the session at the end of the presentations for this session.
Sure.
Yeah. Moving ahead, we have the next presentation by Ms. Sandra Jose. She is from Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. Sandra, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, yes, you're audible now. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bhagyashree. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Jose. I work as project coordinator with Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. So quickly moving ahead, what we would be discussing today will be our intervention among the urban poor community in terms of entrepreneurship development. So majorly most of our large chunk of our programs are generally concentrated among rural poor community and then helping them in building a livelihood setup through entrepreneurship. But at the same time we have a few programs where we concentrate on the urban poor women, which we call as Women Skillpreneurship Development Program, WSDP. And skillpreneurship is a term that we have coined where we bring about skilling and entrepreneurship together and make it into one program, and then provide inputs of skill development as well as entrepreneurship development to the candidates that help them to develop the skills that they have acquired into a meaningful entrepreneurship income generating activity. So this program, to brief about the structure of the program, Bhagyashree, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So no, I think the previous slide was fine. Yeah. So it is basically a 1-month training. It is organized for 45 to 50 women identified from the urban poor clusters. So there we identify these women and then provide them training in a few particular selected skills. So as of now, in the running program, the skills that we have that are being trained in are cloth or paper bag making, jute bag making, and then we have added face mask, cloth face mask making as well due to the COVID situation. Then there is one batch running on toiletry product making, which includes all the cleaning agents, floor cleaners, hand wash, etc. And then there is another group who works on handmade jewelry items. So these skills are imparted to the women through skill trainers and then through classroom sessions. Parallelly, on each day there are sessions on entrepreneurship as well. So in case of entrepreneurship, we concentrate mainly on developing their entrepreneurial competencies and then helping them in setting up an enterprise, creating ideas on setting up an enterprise. So that includes ideation, feasibility study, market analysis, etc. So they are trained in that particular techniques and strategies, and then on how to grow and keep their enterprises sustainable. So that includes product diversification, product customization, design ideas, etc. will come into that particular part of the training. So after the 1-month training, we ensure that these trainees go into establishing their own very small enterprises. So when we talk about these enterprises, if I could say the experience from the ground, it is not more than an enterprise with not more than rupees 5,000 investment. So we are talking about that smaller scale, and from there they start working. So that is something that investment is something that they are comfortable with or that they can mobilize, and then they are confident that okay, so I am confident to work with this amount of money. So they start with that. They'll start creating a smaller income, But then in future they have a sustained, even if it is small income, there is a sustained income coming in, which gives them confidence to scale up in future. And then EDI provides handholding for the next 6 months after the enterprise is being set up, and then that includes like going through their products and helping them in identifying the best packaging options, marketing, sales, etc. Or if any kind of licensing is required, we help with that. Any kind of registrations or permissions from local bodies, etc. So in that area we invest. So after the 6 months hand holding, we slowly begin out of the enterprise created, but at the same time we keep in touch with these. So the total project period is for 18 months. So even after the 6 months of direct and rigorous hand holding, we are with them for another 1 year, and then we follow up with them, check on them regarding what all help they need, and in that way slowly after 18 months we totally move out of the program area. So basically, as any other livelihood initiative, the idea behind this project is also to create income generation opportunities, create employment opportunities, as well as create assets locally that can be used by the community. Can we move ahead, Bhagyashree? Yeah, so while implementing this project, our major challenges that we faced were, the first one was like the lack of access to resources. So when we talk about the urban poor, their situation in terms of resources that they can freely access is in a negative side while compared to their counterparts in the rural areas, because there are far more accessible infrastructures in rural areas in terms of space, in terms of money, or in terms of material, etc. But at the same time, that is like very minimal for the community in urban areas. So that is one major challenge that we bear, because when we talk about entrepreneurship, there needs to be like time to be invested, there needs to be a space where they can work. So in that way, that was the major challenge at the entrance point itself, where we had to get into the community. And and then in the urban poor, in rural areas, we could find that there would be seasons where like the people are like not going for wage labor or daily labor activity. It's mostly based on agriculture season. So I'll bite it up quickly. So that here they go for daily wages, like a domestic help or like help in any other factory or somewhere. And then so to get their time for training was another challenge. Then, as I already mentioned, there was spatial constraint in the enterprises. And then being in urban areas, whatever enterprise that you come up with in a small scale, there is already a counterpart that is existing, which is cheaper and is machine made. So there is a strict competition with that as well. Yeah, Bhagyashree, can you move to the next slide? I think the slide is not appearing on the screen. So in the way forward, we are looking at like capacity building the community to root for secondary income sources. So this entrepreneurship, micro entrepreneurship, we are pushing it as a secondary source of income, not as like, okay, you don't have to go for another work, because they need multiple, who are always sustain on multiple income sources. So we are rooting this as a secondary source of income on which they can fall upon in case something happens to their major source of income. Then we are training them and then encouraging them to start the habit of saving and investment practices, and then also to create adaptability among their enterprises, so that in case of any kind of changes or shocks that happens as it happened now, they will be able to overcome those changes. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much for this option.
Thank you, Sandra. Our next presentation is by Ms. Malti. She is the Director Education and Livelihoods with Apnalaya.
Hello, good evening everyone. Thank you Bhagyashree for introducing me, and it has been really great to be part of this initiative and listen to all the other speakers. I will start the presentation by giving a brief introduction about Apnalaya. Apnalaya is been there in Mumbai working with the urban poor communities since 1973. And we have been working in the area nowadays with in Shivaji Nagar in M East Ward. Can we just go to the next slide? We can go to slide number 4. I will not go through the urban poverty thing because a lot of people have already spoken about it. So I'll just move to Shivaji Nagar M East Ward, where Apnalaya is currently focused on working. M East Ward is a ward in Mumbai which is with the lowest human development index in Mumbai of 0.05. And currently we are working there in 123 slum clusters, reaching out to 14,877 households. So as you can see in the screen in front of you, the condition is very dire. Mumbai being the 12th richest city in the world, there is a place in Mumbai where the average age of death is 39 years. The average family income is 7,802, where the family size is around 5 people. Only 1 in 7 women are employed, and every second employed person is in casual labor. The rate of underage marriage is also alarming. In fact, the rate for boys is at 47%, while for girls it is at 38.3%. 3 out of 10 children here are out of school. There is no government secondary school within the area, and 38% of the children in 0 to 5 years are underweight. So what have we kind of tried to achieve here? I'll just talk about some of our impacts going forward. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so I'll first talk about our vision and mission, which is basically about empowered people and sustainable communities. To that end, we work at 3 levels, which can be seen in our mission, which is working with individuals to enable access to basic services, empowering them, that is the community, to help themselves, and working with government through advocacy to ensure provision of civic entitlements. So what have we achieved so far? There, in the years that Apnalaya has worked with the community, there is a 17% reduction in under 5 mortality, basically from 70% in 2014 to 53% in 2019. The dropout rate and the underage marriage in adolescents and youth enrolled in our program is also less than 1%. Since 2014 to 15, where we started a structured livelihood program, 1,600 youth and women have been supported with a livelihood. There are 629 volunteers in civic action groups who have worked together with the local government to provide benefit to more than 20,000 households over the last 1 year. So can we move forward? I have briefly spoken about our approach already, so we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so as I said, we work at 3 levels because we believe that poverty cannot be addressed just by working with only individuals or with government. So we work at 3 levels, basically to enable survival and security by providing access to basic services like healthcare, education and livelihoods. Working with the community, the civic action group that I mentioned earlier also is talking about building a group which can work with the local government to help themselves, and with the government to ensure that they respond to the citizens. Can we move to the next slide? So functionally, if you look at it, there are 3 programs: health and disability, education and livelihoods, citizenship and advocacy. But just to note here that citizenship for us is an approach, not a separate program. So in each of our program, we talk about volunteering, incentivizing volunteers, and building the capacity of the community to respond to their own needs. Next slide. So now I will go on to the interventions under education and livelihoods, particularly focused on livelihoods. we work with youth and women in this particular program, projects and under the program. So the first one is the employment support program, which is with the youth between 18 to 34 years of age, where earlier Anuj mentioned about aspirations. So we also work at building realistic and imaginative aspirations which are market linked, looking at employability skills, but going beyond just communication, looking at work ethics, discipline, workplace familiarization, also looking at career counseling. We do not do any direct skill development. We link them to skill development and employment through partners. One of the most important aspect is supporting the candidate through the workplace transition that happens, and that is where we also look at dropouts and how to ensure that the youth continues in employment for 6 months at least. So this is one aspect. We can go to the next slide. The second part is basically our work with the women in the community, livelihoods with women. And this is, I think many of us may also be doing the similar kind of work, working with self-help groups, looking at social and financial inclusion and promotion of micro enterprise. So we do training and capacity building, linking with government schemes and banks, and promotion of micro enterprise. It is through this work that we came to realize that there are some cases which make workforce participation for women challenging. There are cultural barriers which prevent women from working outside their homes or outside the community. There are then the women who are not able to go out to work because there are primary caregivers for their infant children. In addition to these two aspects, we also came across cases where adolescent siblings were saddled with the responsibility of the infant brothers and sisters when the parents had to go out to work. And there were other cases where young children were locked in their homes till parents came back from work. Now, looking at all of this, we thought we could link all the three problems and come up with a solution. We can go to the next slide, which is the Community Childcare Center. So the Community Childcare Center is basically looking at a woman who can't go out of the community and work but wants to earn a livelihood, and women who are not able to go out to work because of the fact that they are primary caregivers. We selected 2 women from a community who and trained them in early childhood care and education, communication, child protection policy, business basics, and financial management. After the training, these 2 women are supported to start a community childcare center in one of their homes. After 3 months of training and successful functioning of CCC, where there are monthly visits happening by our field team, these women are provided with a startup grant, equipment, and learning aids. There is some disturbance. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So along with equipment and learning aids are provided. The hand-holding and guidance is done for a period of 6 months, where there are monthly visits happening. Parent engagement is taken up, and post the 6 months, we do quarterly visits, refresher training, and exposure visits for these women. The outcomes are basically enabling women to access livelihoods, looking at women who are now able to go for training and skill development because of childcare support, affordable childcare services provided for them, and the child being provided with a safe learning environment till the time the parents are out for work. We have also come across another unintended kind of impact where adolescent siblings, we have tracked their continuing in school during this period. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so I would like to focus on the 45 community childcare centers that are functional in Shivaji Nagar right now. There are 237 children who are enrolled and are attending the childcare centers. 176 women earned a livelihood due to affordable childcare. This is over the last 1 year. And for the CCC owners, there was an average increase in monthly income of around 2,500 rupees. Yeah, to the next slide. Now, what are the key project challenges and learnings for us? So, this is more focused on the women enterprises that we are looking at. Any training program, we kind of want to look at where there's a greater income potential. The eligibility criteria comes to around 10th or 12th, but 50.8% of women in Shivajinagar have no education or less than 5 years of formal education. So it becomes very difficult for us. In our CCC program specifically, we have not kept a high level of education. We have just kept that the woman should know reading and writing, and then she can be trained. That is one thing. During the recent COVID-19 pandemic, again, the limitations of the existing SHG framework, especially in providing financial services, was also noted. Is the time over, or I have one more minute?
No, I think you have about 15-20 seconds to wrap up.
Next slide.
Yeah.
For the CCC specifically, we started initially with a view to providing child a safe environment. So there was more of a service delivery model, but to move to a social enterprise model, we had to work with the women closely. Selection of women entrepreneurs and ensuring a fit was a challenge. The parent engagement and feedback process has given us a lot of learnings in this process. Next slide. Next slide, please. So what we are looking at is scaling up through partnership with community-based organizations through a community resource person model, a Sakhi model, or a Rozgar Sahayak model. And also, if there are people interested to implement the model in their areas by themselves, then training of partner organization and handholding support to implement this. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malati. I request Achal if there are any questions she could share with us.
Hello.
Yes, Achal.
There was one question for Miss Sandra from EDII by Mr. Christopher Loon. He is asking, when will the next SVEP be started again?
Okay, so SVP is a Startup Village Entrepreneurship Program, that is the flagship program for EDII. So for that, EDII is the National Resource Organization for NRLM. So we are working in close connection with NRLM, and then we need to get a go-ahead from them for further scaling up and then expansion. So right now I am not in a position to give an update on that.
Okay, thank you. So I have one question for Mr. Pranav. You introduced the skilling program. So I want to know how the skilling placement has been modified now given the COVID scenario, and how do you plan to further engage the youth targeting specific sectors that are going to come up in coming days?
Yeah. So interesting question. What happened that after this COVID lockdown started, we also introduced few studies. So these are like monthly studies where we are reaching out to our employers. Close to 4,000 employers are on our platform. So what happened that initially till 15th or 16th of May, there was almost zero placements because most of the employers said that it is on hold. Interestingly, we were able to place close to 20% people of the total placement we do in a month, in the month of say till 8th of June. But we are seeing a traction from 8th June onwards, where we are already back to 50-55% placement. We used to do 70-75% placement, but now we are able to accomplish 50-55. Two sectors are emerging again based on the study conducted. The second phase study helped us to know that BFSI and ITES, these are the two sectors under service sector, These are still maximum jobs are coming from these sectors. And the third one is the essential services. So the sectors like health, or if you look at the complete value chain, so there are many job opportunities coming. The core employability skill is industry agnostic or the domain agnostic. So basically we are talking about different level of English, computer knowledge, arithmetic, soft skill. So what happened that we are able to make use of these opportunities as well. For example, if my domain focus would have been say hospitality, so it becomes very difficult because jobs are not coming. So core employability program plus digital delivery plus some study which we keep, and these studies we'll keep doing for next 6 months. Definitely there is an impact. So at India level, if you see, there is a huge impact, but on an average we place close to 13,000-14,000 youth in a year spread across say 70-80 locations. So for us the impact has been less. So this is the current scenario.
Thank you, Pranav.